Hey, folks, welcome to Vitruvian Reading List book review number 18 for 2021. This is a good one. So, let me tell you something about myself first and foremost. I'm a bit of an optimist just by nature. That's who I am. That's what I want to be. I like to have a positive outlook. And during these unsettling times, that can be a little bit trying. And it's always good to remember that things are pretty freaking awesome depending on where you look. And so, what I like to try to do often is just take a step back and just kind of look at everything in the arc of history, right? So, from the beginning of time to where we are right now and evaluate the human experience as it currently exists. And it's really quite amazing. And please understand, this is not to discount the plight of some of our neighbors right here in America, and certainly not to those on the other side of the world who wake up every day and think to themselves, I hope I don't starve to death. I hope that I don't die of malaria. I hope I don't get polio, which is still a thing in parts of India. There are some very, very tough spots right here in America as well as the rest of the world. And we hear about them all of the time. So every once in a while, it's good to just step back and look and go, okay, what is good in the world? And in this book by Steven Kotler and Peter Diamandis, they talk a lot about what is good in the world. Technology is just accelerating at such an incredible pace. It's really kind of mind boggling. And that's what this book is all about. It talks about what we have happening right now to fix big, huge problems. And if you know anything about Diamandis, he is one of the creators, and I guess the primary founder of the X Prize. And here's what the X Prize is: the X Prize is essentially a $10 million purse prize. I believe it's $10 million to solve really, really big problems. It went back. Now, here's the history of the X Prize. It goes back to when Charles Lindbergh made his first cross Atlantic flight. Did you know that that was part of a contest with a purse and a prize? And what Peter Diamandis talks about in this book is how incentivizing through prize and contests will actually drive things to innovate quicker and faster than, say, big government entities like NASA. You've got billions of dollars behind these projects, but there's a lot of red tape. There's people that their careers are on the line. Whereas the Wright brothers, they were guys that had a bike shop and just wanted to fly and were tinkering, and there was nobody really watching them, and they were able to do what they wanted to do. Their budget was much smaller because they were willing to improvise. And same with Charles Lindbergh. And he talks about that in The Spirit of St. Louis, which after reading this, now I realize I need to read that, and maybe I'll do a review on it one day in the future. But this was another thing that gave me a little bit of comfort. The microphone is really prominent in this shot, huh? One of the things that made me feel pretty good about the future, and there were some things that were kind of reason for pause, but this was something I thought was really remarkable. So when it comes to things like climate change and you know unemployment with the onset of AI or artificial intelligence and those sorts of things, a lot of people were worried. They're like, well, what are we going to do if robots are able to take the place of all the workers? What do we do? What if Al Gore's right? Maybe he missed the timing, but what if the glaciers start to melt to such a degree that California falls into the ocean? And what are we going to do? Well, one of the cool things that has happened throughout the course of time is that technology and innovation generally gets ahead of the catastrophe before it hits. And I had never really thought about that. And then I remember back whenever I was in like the fifth grade, I think, is where I started learning about acid rain. Remember acid rain? And we were worried that acid rain was going to destroy the planet and destroy our cars and statues and our drinking water. and then the technology caught up and surpassed the problem, and it was solved, or at least managed to a degree to where it didn't become the catastrophe that everyone thought. Doesn't mean we can take our eye off the ball, but here's the good news: there are a lot of people infinitely brighter than me that have their eye on the ball and are innovating in such a way that before the major catastrophes come, then we usually find a solution. So I thought that was very encouraging. And just a second, check out my cup. This is my favorite cup. My daughter's got this for me. One of my favorite sayings is crushing it. Ooh, can you see that? Crushing it or crush it. It's a little nutcracker. He's crushing it. It's my favorite coffee mug. So there was one thing that I just read about that I thought was something that I had heard before, and it's just always good to hear again. So, did you know that money can buy happiness? Money can buy happiness up to a certain point. At least that's what studies have shown. This book goes into great detail about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you know the 5 levels, and I won't go into them here, but there comes a point where once you have your basic needs met, which in America is around $75,000 according to the studies that have been done, once you get to about $75,000 a year, which is what it takes to pretty much pay for most of your necessities, that's going to chew up about 80 to 90% of that 75K is just the pay your taxes, the basics, food, housing, cars, whatever. Then all of a sudden, more money does not necessarily make you happier. And then the chapter, I can't remember which chapter it was that talked about this 75K number. It went on to talk about how there was a time when well-to-do people, they would have things like a VCR, a camcorder, a camera, a car, maybe a nice stereo. I mean, do you remember when we used to have all of these things? When you walk into somebody's house and they had look, I was born in 75, okay? I grew up in the 80s. And I remember if you walked into someone's house and they had a camcorder and they had a big screen TV, maybe one of those big things that had the multicolor lights projecting up to it. Do you remember those things? If they had all these individual things, a whole set of encyclopedias, that was kind of indicative of a pretty well-to-do household. Okay, now a big screen TV on a Black Friday, $250 maybe. The encyclopedia, we hold it in the palm of our hands. I mean, we hold more knowledge in the palm of our hands now in the form of an iPhone than all of the computing power that it took to launch the Apollo spacecraft. So, or to run the Apollo mission. So when you start thinking about things like that, it makes you go, God, one, just how freaking amazingly brilliant some human beings are. I mean, that you read this stuff and the problems that have been solved throughout the world, and it just makes you go, my gosh, the brain power that people have and the problem solving ability that people have, it just makes you feel good. And it makes you realize, compared to like right now, I don't care if you are watching this video, you are living better. Okay. You are, trust me, you are living better than any king that lived in medieval times. But not just that, you probably have more at your disposal. Not money. It's not talking about money. It's just the things that money can buy, material things that are comforts, air conditioning, TVs, all those things. You probably have more now than the president of the United States had in, say, 1945, 1950. I mean, we have things so good at our average individual that everything from the middle class below has luxuries that heretofore were reserved specifically for very, very wealthy individuals, because technology and innovation has allowed for something I'd never heard before, but really liked this this term. It was called dematerialization. Now, I try not to be a real material guy, but hey, I like some stuff. I'm not gonna lie. And by the way, that's not what my reviews or anything is about. Is to shame people because they like nice stuff. I could absolutely care less. But the point is, as technology moves faster and faster and faster, then the novelty of a material item doesn't hold the sway that it once did. Because again, going back to the iPhone, there's so many things that we used to have to go to for entertainment, like material. Let's like CDs. Who buys CDs anymore? You certainly don't buy an album, and you certainly don't have to buy a record player, right? I mean, I know that's become cool. Both of my daughters have record players, which I think is so funny. They like to buy this stuff that just because it's kind of I don't know. They like to buy old crap that they don't need anymore, but it's novel, I guess, to them to have some vintage stuff, and so they got into record players. As a matter of fact, my daughter, when she was home from college here recently, she just told me that she likes to use disposable cameras. I'm like, what? Why? Just so that the print you can print it out. She said, yeah. She said, you have to go get them printed out. When you get them, it has kind of a vintage vibe to it. And so it's just so weird. But now with the dematerialization is making it such that the things that used to be used to be stimulating to us but due to their material fashion, it's kind of losing its luster. And I know I've seen that in my life. I mean, as technology moves forward and I can do things, I can travel more, and read more and learn more. That I'm not as into material things. So that was pretty cool. Another thing that there real a lot of very, very bright people are looking into is this whole idea of healthcare and life extension, and the breakthroughs that are being made are nothing short of remarkable. And one of the things that the book goes into a lot is just finally we're able to to collect and use data in such a way that one can eventually get to having their entire medical history on a chip. So imagine walking around with every medical record that has impacted you, and by the way, is synced with real time data. That it's going to be possible that you will always have that on the ready. You know, I believe, and by the way, feel free in the comments to pick apart to count how many times I say, I cannot stand that. I know you probably don't like it. And you're probably like, the guy reads some cool books, but his reviews, he's always going. So feel free to completely bust my balls on that point in the comments. Jason, you said, like a freaking Texan that you are, which I love being a Texan, but sometimes I sound like a goober by one saying, as a filler phrase all the time. And this is the way I say it. So please bust my balls. Maybe that'll help break me of the habit. But nevertheless, when it comes to healthcare and some of the innovations that are coming about with that, it's really, really cool to see what is happening and how we are using data now as a for predictive outcomes. And of course, I know that most of you reading something like Abundance, or that you would listen to a book review like this, about genome sequencing and what that has done, and a lot of the innovation that has happened in the way of vaccines. We're kind of living through it right now. I mean, the uh, the fact that we were able to develop vaccines for the coronavirus in the time we did is a modern marvel of miraculous proportions. I mean, it is it's truly astounding what we got to live through and saw happen in the development of these vaccines. And so that's what I love about this book, is it goes into so much of what we have to be thankful for and what we're excited about. And like, listen to this. Here's a problem: solving sanitation. It's an open debate who invented the modern toilet. Apocrypha holds that it was Thomas Crapper. There you go. A little trivia for you, folks. That's where the term crapper comes from Thomas Crapper, a 19th century English plumber. But the real story actually begins much earlier. In the West, while his technology was never commercialized, credit is now given to Sir John Harrington, who invented a water closet in 1596 for his godmother, Queen Elizabeth I, in the East. Innovation stretches back much further. Uh, Archaeologists recently unearthed a Han Dynasty latrine dating to 206 BC, complete with a running water supply, stone bowl, and an armrest. This 2,400-year-old Chinese technology looks downright modern. But here's what they go into further is that, I mean, think about this. When was the last time a toilet and indoor plumbing really had any innovations? I mean, it's kind of like whenever George Costanza on Seinfeld gets into the debate about how toilet paper really hasn't changed. Well, not only has the toilet paper changed, but neither has the toilet. Now, I know some of you fancy people out there have your heated seat warmers and your bidet operation and whatever, but imagine the potential upgrades. Imagine toilets that require no infrastructure. No pipes under the floor, no leach field under the lawn, no sewer systems running down the block. These high-tech outhouses power and burn the feces and flash evaporate the urine, rendering everything sterile along the way. Rather than wasting anything, these toilets give back packets of urea for fertilizer, table salt, volumes of fresh water, and enough power that you can charge your cell phone while taking a crap should the need arise. So there are people out there, again, a hell of a lot smarter than me, thinking about how to create a toilet that does all that. That's amazing. We live, folks, in my estimation, again, not discounting the plight that plagues the globe. And there's someone that's just probably, less than 10 miles away from me that has a world that they live in that is abysmal. Everything's relative. I get that. But when you step back and you look at the arc of history, I gotta believe we are living in some incredible times. I mean, the human experience, it is a great freaking time to be alive. It truly, truly is. And the brain power that is on display, and this is what I love so much, is that not only is it on display figuratively, it's really on display. We can now go to YouTube and see people fixing things and creating things and innovating and doing remarkable things. I often get, and this is going to sound so cheesy and so soft, but bear with me. I often get like a little choked up whenever I'm watching a YouTube video of someone on like the X Factor or America's Got Talent or something. And I think that's just an average, ordinary individual that heretofore probably would have lived their life completely unnoticed. But for modern technology, they can now find a channel to get that talent out. Well, guess what? The same thing is happening in innovation. Same thing is happening in biotechnology. It's another thing they go into in the book, which is kind of scary, but also kind of remarkable, that you can basically set up a biochemistry lab in your garage for like pennies on the dollar. It's insane. And there are people doing it. There are actually people setting up these labs, buying old secondhand equipment for not a lot of money that once cost, thousands of dollars. The price for incredible technology is just going down, down, down further. So what this allows for is people like me and others to get a hold of this technology and use it to tinker with and innovate with and figure out how does this work, and go back to my analogy of the Wright brothers. It's not just about learning flight anymore. It's learning how do you genome sequence in your garage. I know that's crazy, but it's stuff like that that people are figuring out. And how can just the average chemistry teacher like Walter White, instead of cooking up a batch of baby blue meth or whatever it was called, instead is deciding how to cure cancer in his garage. So this book really gives you hope for a brighter future. It also it made me realize just how amazing the times we are living in truly are. And so with that, and of course, it's a Steven Kotler book. The other one that I read with Peter Diamandis was Bold, which I loved as well. But pretty much anything Steven Kotler writes, I'm all in. I love it. And this one is no exception. Abundance, pick it up. It's fantastic. You'll learn some cool stories about technology, innovation, what's happening in the world of healthcare, space, the environment, you name it. Learn a lot of cool things, but more than anything, for me, I think you get a real sense of optimism. And I think that's something we could all use a little bit of right now. So I hope you'll pick it up. I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe to the channel. I would be grateful. And feel free again to bust my balls on, and also to the reviewer or the person that sent me a post on that I need better thumbnails on my channel. Thank you. Look, no ego attached here. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just having fun with this. I'm trying to create some cool content that I think will be beneficial. If you have ideas, if you're good at this, if you've got a lot of subscribers or you figured out some tips and tricks on how to do better reviews, whether these should be longer, shorter, somewhere in between, if I could do some better thumbnails and you've got some ideas for that, if there's a book you think I should read that you'd like for me to review, please leave comments. I would be grateful. And also, I would ask you to please go out to jasonwrightnow.com or the Vitruvian Project.com. Sign up for the Vitruvian letter. That's my newsletter. I would be very grateful if you would do that. So with that, thanks for listening to this review number 18 of 2021 Abundance. Thanks so much. Let's do this together. Let's just keep on crushing it. I'm out.